set it here. I'll tag you on it.
Oh, that'd be great.
It'll show up. Let's see, is it hidden? Yeah, there it goes. There it is. All right, let me just, yeah. Okay, Jeff. Ooh, it's hot down here in Mexico, man.
Is it? Oh man, it's
Man, last night was a burner. Like but I think it had something to do with the day at a time. You know how these things go.
yeah, totally.
The mystical, magical, and all that. But
Right.
I actually arrived in Mexico on the day at a time last year. Somehow or another, I was able to cross the border without anybody asking me for anything, which was good.
Wow.
I didn't need the hassle. Let's make sure that's taken. Um, yeah, last night was weird because yeah, you're good. I got you tagged on it.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, I see
Let
it
me just
now.
share it out to a couple of
Cool.
places.
Yeah, let me share that with
There's one and oops and two. Boom, boom, boom.
doing the same
Yeah, we'll
thing.
give them a couple of minutes. Let me just check. Yeah, we're live on Facebook. It
Awesome.
doesn't
Yeah, it
look
looks
like
like it.
YouTube's taken. Let me see here. Yeah, it was crazy last night because the power goes out here. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, YouTube's on. X is on. Um, yeah, yeah, it was pretty crazy because I don't know, it was near midnight, and then the power went out, which isn't, it's not a. Sometimes it lasts, 10 minutes. Sometimes it lasts a few hours,
Oh, okay.
but yesterday and the day before were extremely hot, like 100 degrees, you know,
Wow. Yeah,
and
that's pretty hot.
yeah, it was pretty hot, and I'm pretty good with the heat, but then the power went out, and I laid down, and man, I don't know the exact time, but I'd say probably 3 or 4 hours of no electricity. Had the windows open, no breeze,
Dang.
and it was, and I mean, I sweat the bed like I never had before. And usually when I purge, I'll sweat the bed.
Right.
But this was crazy. Like this was like, I had to wring it out. And then and then I had all these lucid dreams about this tiger, which I thought was
Oh,
interesting. Yeah, there was like five or
wow.
six dreams, and the tiger's in it the whole time. And then at
Cool.
the last dream, it was like I wasn't scared of the tiger, but I wasn't like
Mhm.
going tapping it on the shoulder.
Either. Yeah.
And there was people
Gotcha.
around, like even kids and stuff. It felt familiar and friendly. So at the very last part of the dream, I went and yeah, like cuddled with the tiger, which was kind of cool. Okay, I think we're ready to roll. 2 minutes into, we got a new friend,
Awesome.
soulogy. All right, and it's Friday, day at a time, so that means something. There are no mistakes, no coincidences. But we're gonna meet Jeff Uter. Is that right? Uter? Utter.
It's actually pronounced utter.
Utter. Jeffrey
Yeah.
Utter. Jeff
Yeah.
Utter. Jeffrey Utter.
Yes, sir.
Uh, Somebody turned us on to him. And a couple of days ago, sister turned us on to his work. So I went to his page and I sent him a note. He probably thought I was crazy, and then I think he went and checked me. And goes, "Oh yeah, you are legit."
I did. I did take a little
I would do
look.
the same thing, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in and sharing sacred space with us and the Soulgy community.
Definitely.
This show's never really been like an interview format. It's always been
Right.
like a conversation.
Totally.
So you can ask questions too. But
Awesome.
yeah, as things come up organically, the work you're doing, your story, that type of thing, since we don't know you, we should jump into it. For years and years and years, thousands of episodes. I'd always start the show off. I don't do it much anymore, but I'd always start the show off with, so when did you wake up? So
Oh,
I think
yeah,
we'll just kind of digress and go back to that old format
sure.
and see, because a lot of people in this in these communities, I would say at this point, um, I would say probably if you go back to 2012, it was like 45 and over or 40 and over. And you still see a lot of that reflected, but you're like, 45 and up. But there are younger people coming in, and I can see it,
Gotcha.
and it's moving very fast. So I'm interested
Yeah,
to hear
true.
because I have found over the years talking to younger people that a couple, two or three characteristics are different. One is how they wake up. Two is how they hear the universal voice,
Hmm.
and then I forget the third one now that was kind of a common. But yeah, welcome to the show. And when did you wake up?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, first of all, so much for having me here. This is an honor and it's exciting. So yeah, thanks for that. But when did I wake up? So for me, I mean, the way I look at when did you wake up, that kind of a question, um, is that I don't see it as being a singular static event. I know that a lot of people do have that experience of it happening all at once. But for me, the way I look at it is that no matter who you are, it's not something, and I get this from the teachings of Abraham, which is a big part of my understanding of the world.
Abraham Hicks. Abraham
Yeah,
Hicks, right?
yes, sir. Yeah, so that's been a big part of my journey. But one of the things they say about that is that this alignment, as they call it, is not like a college degree where once you've got it, it's yours forevermore. Like you hang your diploma on the wall and then you've got it. It's more like it either is or isn't in the moment. And so
Yeah.
that's been true with my experience. I would say that my awakening or my alignment or my enlightenment, which I feel that we all have to varying degrees in different moments, has been more like a stock chart or something. There's been times when there's been peaks and there's been times when there's been valleys. And then even within those peaks and valleys, there's little mini peaks and valleys. So I look at it as like there's a relationship between who we really are and who we're letting ourselves be in the moment. And that gap is either widening or closing at any given time. So
Yeah,
uh,
kind of like a vertical or a diagonal EKG, a heart monitor.
yeah,
Boop,
yeah,
boop, boop.
exactly. Like if you were to think like a graph,
Yeah,
um, there's high points and low points.
yeah,
And then there's lots of in between stuff too.
yeah.
And
Do you
and
feel
that's
like that? Do you feel like? Because I remember when I first, I think probably you're closer. I know a lot of people. Like I had a specific event that happened at a certain time that was
right.
supernatural, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like that.
Mhm.
Usually there's some trauma involved around it. So I
Right.
think you're probably right. Maybe the better word is reawakening. But then again, there is
Yeah.
this perpetual aspect to it that you're referring to. It's not like, oh, you
Yeah.
get the diploma or whatever the case is. But I
Exactly.
remember hearing. I spent my first couple of years on the street by my own choice when I reawoke, and I remember
Mhm.
them telling me what you're saying, which was basically you're gonna have this ebb and flow,
Yeah.
but your low point today was your high point 3 days ago. So it's like a staircase. And
Yeah.
then the other thing they said that always stuck with me, they said, just imagine the word, these words that we give these things.
Mhm.
Ascension is a scale of 1 to 10. And you go
Mm.
out on Monday and you happen to get to the 10. And
Mhm.
you wake up on Tuesday and there's a new 1 to 10, and the old 10 is now a 1.
Yeah.
So,
I
so I
think
get
that
what you're
that
saying. Yeah.
I think that that can be the case, and I think it could even go the other way, where it could have been
Mm,
something that at one time you were really connected, and now
mm,
not so much. So you could
mm.
go up or down. I think the potential for any of us to go in any direction is there. But yeah, hopefully, you're having that kind of staircase effect that you're talking about. Because
Do you feel like at this point in the game that and there's no right or wrong, I'm just curious.
yeah,
Because I have a curious mind. That's one reason I love this job. But
yeah,
so do you feel like that people can be taken when I say taken down,
hmm,
I don't mean like in a judgmental way. We've
right,
all had our moments. I've had my moments for
right,
sure.
yeah.
But do you feel like, I guess what I'm saying is, do you feel like collectively speaking that there's a greater propensity for someone to expand into the type of consciousness that you represent, or do you think that there's an equal magnetization from the other direction? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I guess the way that I look at it, it sounds like you're talking about, t in today's time, or as we are moving through time, the way I look at it is sort of a law of attraction perspective. So you might look at like the law of attraction as like a big magnifying glass being laid over everything. So the potential for going up and going down are both greater.
Mm,
So everything that's happening is happening more, in other words. So
mm.
this is potentially the best of times and the worst of times from my perspective. And that's
Yeah.
just all about what you practice as an individual. And the more that you practice, the more that you get a momentum going. Everything's
Yeah.
about momentum. So if you have a momentum or a trajectory, kind of like that staircase you were talking about, where things are getting better and better, then things that are in motion tend to stay in motion in that way. It's the same with our thought forms as it is in physics.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
practice makes perfect, but like
Yeah.
I talk to our students like about, let's say it was a basketball game. Let's call alignment or enlightenment a basketball game, just for an example, right? Even if you were, you know, an all-star player, you're always going to still need to run drills. You're always going to still need to, practice day after day. You're going to still have an off day. You might get to the point where you sink almost every, shot, vibrationally speaking, in this analogy, but some shots you're not going to make. And that's part of the fun of the game,
Yeah.
if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my second favorite quote of all time is I'm not judged by the number of times I fail, but by the number of times I succeed, which is in direct proportion to the number of times I try.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
I do feel like that, having been in this seat or, in the involved, let's just say since 2011, 2012, and having talked to so many people, I've had
Hmm.
the luxury of being able to see like the collective evolution through the daisy chain of shows and other video productions and other collaborations. And then of course just being able to go and access the field, be it in the virtual community or the dimensional community or whatever you want to put it. But
Yeah.
um, it feels to me like, there a lot of this stuff like today's a day at a time. I don't think that that is a coincidence that you and I are talking on a day at a time. You know,
Hmm.
there's something to it. I can't tell you what it is, but
Right.
there's also, and I don't live or die by anything, any philosophy, any book, anything at all, because I really feel like the less you know, the more you know. But I'm not trying to throw anything on you. Just trying to make a
Right.
conversation and a point, see where you're
Totally.
coming from. But like
Totally.
December 21st, 2012 to
Hmm.
December 21st, 2024, that
Hmm.
12-year period, you know, like my guidance has come in and said, you guys actually achieved what you came here to do, and you did it in this distorted period. And now we're on the other side now, and everything's flipping the other way. So it's almost like we were going against the current, and now we're going with the current. And yet we still have these echoes of the human condition to where we're having to work the kinks out, you know.
Hmm.
And I guess my question to you is, have y- have you seen any change in the makeup of the alchemic, the alchemical, you call it the miraculous, the magical, the law of attraction type of approach or templates? Have you seen anything changing in the field, like, as you're creating what you're creating in your community and your groups and that type of thing?
Absolutely. Well, I think this type of knowledge is becoming more mainstream, obviously, than it used to be. So you've got more, as you like to say, weirdos like you and me, you know, out here talking about it than there ever have been before. So there's definitely that type of like very observable change that's going on, just in a really basic level of looking at it.
Mm,
But from like a woo-woo perspective, I feel like I feel like we've I think honestly, I think we're all eternal beings. So I think we're all having an experience now in this life that is part of an eternal unfolding for all of us. So I think that we're all forever. And I think that that sacredness and the beauty and everything extends in an unlimited way, both in past and in future.
mm,
So to me, like all times are special and all times are sacred and all times are, you know, filled with a level of potential and of beauty and of possible joy for those having that experience that's beyond what words can even say. So it's like, do you think that the infinity right here is more than the infinity right here? Well, it's really hard to put two infinities on a scale and and weigh them because infinity's so big. You know what I mean? So um I, also I don't really look at things in terms of the collective so much. Like I do believe that there is a collective thing that's going on, but at the same time, I think that it really, really depends on the individual. I think you've
Mm.
got as many versions of Earth as there are perceivers of Earth and perspectives about Earth. So you could have one person who's saying this is a really contracted time and this is a really, dense time. And then you've got somebody else over here, same exact Earth, well, in a way, not really the same exact Earth, because for them it's a very expanded time. It might even be perceived by them as a utopia, because I don't see things necessarily as like there's one Earth. It's more like there's these different vibrational stations that you can tune into, and those are sort of like vibrational islands, that where things that are like gather together.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like you mentioned earlier, that this isn't a coincidence, right? That we're talking today.
Mm.
To me, I believe that the same thing, that there are no coincidences, that everything is that which is likened to itself is drawn. That's law of attraction, right? So I feel
Mm.
like there's something about you and something about me that just sort of lined up and we're rendezvousing on the same vibrational place just in this moment in time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if
No, I
that's
get
a
what you're saying.
question, but yeah.
No, I like the metaphor or the analogy of the infinite, like the two infinity signs on the scales. Or yeah, I
Mhm.
always take it back to the yin yang
Yes.
because in all seriousness, and it's not just words. I mean, and I'm not saying I'm anything. I'm just saying, other people have said it.
Mhm.
Plato said it. I mean, the
Mhm.
more you know, the less you know, and that's
Right.
not a bad thing. But what I'm saying is that for me, I always look at the yin yang thing, and I know that half of what I am and what is in front of me, I can't see. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So there's
Yeah.
always that inverse. So it might even be like your
Right.
example. Feels they're in a contracting period. Somebody
Mhm.
feels they're in an expanding period. Yet they are actually in the same period or the same thing. It's just a different perception.
Mhm.
Like you might look at a multi dimensional faceted uh, geometric figure with,
Yes.
with a million different facets.
Yes.
I've said on the show for years, two things. One, 8 billion people, 8 billion Earths,
Exactly. I heard you
or
say
how do
that.
we
Yeah.
know or not know, because there seems to be something about the intellect and the comprehensive human capacity that's being superseded now. And it's creating a lot of changes and evolution in the way we communicate and the way we connect and the way we actually live.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've often wondered, I still wonder. I still throw it out there, which is,
Mhm.
for all we know, we may all be beating at the same vibration. It just doesn't look that way on the surface. You know, but I feel like that what you're breaking into, like what I looked at some of your work, and I
Thanks.
like it a lot because I'm a very
Thanks.
optimistic, positive person.
Yeah, you
I
are.
feel like worrying is, like a sin almost. I mean,
In a
but
way, yeah, that's
I
a
don't want
good
to get
way of
too I don't want to get too hardcore, but
right,
my
right.
point is that like I don't know, it just feels like we've gone through almost like halftime, and everything has been stripped away or will
Mhm.
be stripped away one way or another in the experience. And what I mean by that is belief systems,
Yeah,
things we've constructed, relationships, all kinds of things, right?
yeah,
Uh, and I feel like that might be a common denominator in anyone's expanding consciousness, let's put it that way, in the physical
totally,
form, which
totally.
is basically going, oh, that's, almost like, take it away, 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 until what's left, until what's left. And nothing is everything, right? Like you get to
Yeah.
that place of nothing, and like you were talking about the law of attraction.
Hmm.
I mean, I found that you can. I've been goal oriented, like in my previous life, the corporate world, and I've been able to do those things. I was real big into self help books in my early 20s, as well as the metaphysical. But
Yeah.
I was in that world, and those things work. But there's another thing that works too, which is this, which is this magic, this alchemy, this transmission of sending and receiving
Mhm.
from, you know, soul and human uh, in tandem, that
Yes.
somehow, stepping into this void, this experience,
Hmm.
uh, that to me, it feels like we're at the point now of it's one thing to wake up, but I don't think we just came here to wake up. I think we
Right.
came here to create, which is what you're doing.
Right. I
You
mean,
write a
like you
book.
wake up in the morning in bed, you get out of bed and you go and do stuff. You don't just wake up. You wake up and then you
Yeah.
you live life. Yeah.
Mm. So tell me about your okay, when did you start doing groups? When did you write the book? When did
Yes.
you start getting into kind of that part of you
Yeah.
in terms of, like, because some people support most of them, and I would have to say the vast majority of them has been proven over the years have been the sisters around the world who are
Mhm.
doing grid work and who are downloading and
Feel
transmitting
that.
and channeling, and many of them, many, the vast majority of them in anonymity without any recognition. And that's a real force, probably even a greater force, but it still
Mhm.
takes another type of individual to step out there and say, you know what, my soul's guided me to do this. And that
Yeah.
takes balls or big ovaries, I mean, it's a
Thank
fact.
you.
You,
Thank you.
you know what I'm talking about? So
Oh,
when did that
totally.
start for you? How did you get over the hump of going out there and doing it?
Totally. Yeah. So, well, I mean, I started having my own Facebook groups, maybe like getting close to almost like the better part of a decade now. So that's where it started, kind of community building. And because I got involved with Facebook, and then I realized that wow, there's a lot of people out here who relate to the same sort of things that I do. And then after participating with some of those groups, I thought, well, I'll just start my own group because then I can have, my own idea of what I want there. And so once I started doing that, like I said, it was better part of a decade ago, then what you get is you start having people asking questions, like you start having people, you start having a community that gets built. And so I started getting a lot of practice with that where people would bring forth a question and I felt like I knew the answer, so I was able to speak to a lot of people in a way that they felt and I felt was really uplifting for both of us, and that just sort of happened organically.
Mm,
Just and so for several years I just sort of did that for free, you know what I mean? I was just sharing knowledge as like fans of this type of information. And there would be people with questions and I just wanted to answer. And I found that when I was answering their questions, I would get a lift at the same time. Like when I was, as they say, bring like a lantern for somebody else. I forget how the phrase goes, and it lights your path too, But I had that experience kind of really big and
mm,
was able to kind of help a ton of people over a period of years. And and then just in the last I want to say 2, 3 years is when I actually started like, having so much going on and having such a big presence online that it was like my time became something that I had to sort of decide where I was going to put it and who I was going to put it to. And to be able to have more time, I had to charge money, to be able to have it be my full-time thing that I was doing, So I sort of made a transition maybe 3 years ago, from doing other work that was great. I mean, I did a lot of back in the day, I did a lot of just sort of regular physical labor, stuff like that, stuff like painting somebody's house or, you know, that type of stuff I did for many, many years. And but at the same time, I was like into all this other stuff,
mm, mm,
And so then I finally started doing more coaching with people, like one-on-one sessions and stuff. And then about a year and a little more than a year and a half ago, I decided to start mastermind group, and that's where we have sort of like a group coaching session. And that way, you know, a bunch of people can get access to me, for a lower price, you know what I mean, at once. And then we can have these group discussions like twice a week. And you get kind of this really cool meeting of the minds thing going on where like many perspectives come together and share, so I've been doing that for like I said, over a year and a half. And that's been really, really, really amazing. The experience with that for me is like every time we have one of these, and we do them every Sunday morning and we do them every Thursday afternoon. Every time we do one of these, I always come out with a raised vibration
Mm,
every single
mm,
talk.
mm,
And so it's great because the way it works is, or why that is because we're deliberately, and I'm deliberately steering the conversation for us to talk downstream, is the way that I'm kind of putting it. And a lot of my lingo and a lot of my learning has come from the teachings of Abraham, and that's what my group is centered around and everything. And that's where people come together to find me. Because from a young man, when I first started, you really want to know when I first started awakening, right? Was when I was like 12, maybe, is when I first started reading things that made my mind go, and that was before I ever heard of Abraham. And it was like, people like Alan Watts, um, or
how old were you?
I want to say like when I was 12 is when I
Oh, that's
started
cool. That's cool.
reading
Yeah, yeah.
reading stuff like that. Now I'm
Keep going.
41
Yeah.
years old. Um, but yeah, so then yeah, when we're having these discussions, um, the way I look at it, the Abraham teachings, right? And the reason I came to those teachings, I was going to say, is because it just ended up being, I worked at a library for 5 years and I read everything I could find, to kind of answer those big questions, about who are we, what are we doing here, what are we supposed to do, and after looking at what I felt like was a really pretty good survey of the world's philosophies and major religions and things like that, I ended up finding that knowledge, years later, and it's just what most resonated with me. So
Mm.
that's kind of the term that I use with people, is like, what resonates with you? The reason I'm in this is because it's what resonates with me. So I've yet to find something that resonates with me more than the teachings that have been put forth by Abraham. And I even heard you say on a different show that you feel like that there's a thread of truth that runs through everything. And I believe that too. I believe that there's a golden thread of truth, that runs through all the philosophies and all the teachings and all the seers and sages and religions of the world. And
Mm.
and I see these teachings as being the greatest reflection of that golden thread that I can find. And so anyway, when we have these talks twice a week, um, I, I'm always talking about, this is the way I look at it. There's two directions, right? There's what feels better, there's what feels worse. There's what you do want, there's what you don't want. There's what you do like, what you do prefer, there's what you don't like, what you don't prefer. And you can always hear when someone's talking downstream toward everything they want, or upstream, sort of against their own
Mm.
soul's current, you
Mm.
know? And when we have these talks, since it's all based around these teachings, the talks end up going downstream. Even though we
Mm.
go, as human beings, we turn upstream all the time.
Mm.
It happens to me 1,000 times a day. I buck my own current. I have a thought that doesn't mesh with who I really am, and then I feel that. And my understanding is that our emotions are this communication from
Mm.
our inner beings, and you can feel when you feel a little worse or you feel a little bit better. And we have these talks and they just take us downstream, because that's our intention coming together as we have those types of discussions. And so, yeah. And then when did the book happen? The book happened just a few months ago. I published it in May. It's the
Mm.
first book I've ever published.
Mm.
I wrote it in under a month. It just flowed right out of me, and it was so fun to write. It was so cool. And yeah, it's just been a couple of months and it's been massively life-changing for me because it's really kind of exploded the book. Um, and yeah, so I'm just now starting to be basically completely full time as just author, coach, you know, 41 years
Right.
old.
Yeah,
And
that's cool, man.
now that's what I do. So
That's
I'm
very cool.
writing a
And
new book. Yeah.
yeah, and then like
Yeah.
working in the library, like that I can relate to that. I didn't work in a library, but I started. I think the
That was
first.
like 25 years ago, by the way. That was quite a
Well,
while.
that's probably what you're. So you're okay. So like I was 22, and I picked up Think and Grow Rich
Oh,
by
wow.
Napoleon
Awesome.
Hill
Yeah.
and another book. I can't remember, but it was more of a self-help corporate.
Yeah.
And then it immediately went into Masters of the Far East, and
Hmm.
just all the books that were coming out the late 80s, 90s.
Right.
Um, I probably did about two books a week for 15, 18, 20 years. I don't know exactly. But once I got
Heck
into the
yeah.
to the conveyor belt of the corporate world, I kind of got away from it. And
Right.
then the internet changed everything. But it was the same type of thing. It was there was journaling every night for many, many years. And
Awesome.
then there was the exploration of everything from the different yogas to, the different secret fraternities,
Hmm.
some of the really great authors. I mean, like Paul Brunton, Emmett Fox, I liked a lot. There was just, Siddhartha by Herman Hesse,
Oh,
The
I love that book.
Alchemist, be
Oh,
they
I love that one
stories.
too.
Yeah, there, I
So
mean,
great.
and then you start to, yeah, and that's when I realized, like there's this common thread. And it's kind
Yeah.
of like eating, you got some people that say, you got to eat this way.
Right.
Be a vegan, vegetarian, what do they call the other one? Carnivore,
Yeah.
and then I hear somebody say, it's really about intuitively eating, which I think is
Mm.
lending itself to what you're talking about. Like
It is.
certain cells of souls at a given point in time
Yeah.
are going to, accumulate over here in this corner or that one in this corner. And I've seen this happen
Mm-hmm.
over the years since 2012 with Soulogy, where
Hmm.
there's been many groups come, kind of spawned out of it. Many people start doing videos, podcasts. You can see the connections. They come together. Groups. I know, like the group that you do. I found that there was this one group of ladies that had formulated. I don't know if they're still doing it. There was like 7 or 8 of them. They would meet every week, and I think there's a lot to that because when you said it a minute ago, you're coming together with the right intention.
Yes.
Uh, you're coming together with an open heart. Let's call it unconditional love. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're coming together. To me, this is like my holy trinity, which is the third element to be I want to merge my free will with universal will, the highest and best
Exactly.
for all in a given moment. And you're right. It's
Exactly.
not a stationary place.
Yes.
Um, it's an inertia that is constantly moving, and we've not been conscious of our relationship of cause and effect to that which we experience and share. Because then it goes out
Right.
to
That's a
and
good
s-
point.
but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So
I also
now,
say,
yeah.
yeah,
So and you mentioned the emotions too, which I think is really important because
super.
looking at the grand scale of things as much as a person can do to paint the palette, right?
Yeah.
The palette you paint from, and galactic, elemental, angelic, archangelic, religion, metaphysics, blah blah
Yes.
blah, disciplines, and all this.
So many things.
But and not to take, because we're a composite of everything,
Yes.
but to look at the human experience and the human condition, and instead of looking at it as a redheaded stepchild of our multidimensionality, it's starting to
Right.
flip into the golden child or the rainbow sheep or whatever you want to call it, the third energy, the chi, the
Yes.
Holy Spirit in form.
Yes.
And what to me is really, really where my greatest curiosity is now is to play with the idea because it is an idea that carries so many different things beyond just when I'm speaking to you.
Hmm.
It's in my reflection, you.
Yes.
It's in the exchange, and that is to take what I believe is a unique characteristic to the human container. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's the range of emotions,
Yes.
from complete bliss to pissed off at the world. And
Yeah.
we've brought that energy, which some narratives, well, I don't get caught up in narratives,
Right.
but some narratives say the Archons or the reptilians are, you know, they're siphoning our energy by keeping us off balance and really just presenting a world that makes us all over the place. And so that's really the whole idea, and that the one human being has enough power to run an entire planet, which I believe,
Hmm.
because I believe one human being uh, awaken in their soul consciously can affect the whole world and does. But my
Absolutely.
point being, I believe we've come to
Absolutely.
this place where people like you and those that you work with are starting to consciously and unconsciously, uh, you know, human multifaceted personality and multidimensionality are taking this range of emotions
Hmm.
and now turning it into a superpower. Kind of like what people
Exactly.
talk about with empaths. I'm an empath, I can feel
Yes.
everything. Well, that's kind of like
Yes.
I awoken. Now what do you do with it? Well,
Yes.
now, because nothing comes easy with the universe, you can't miss a step on the soul highway. So now we've got to take all of this life experience, bring it in, and say, okay, what do we want to create?
Exactly.
When I look at you and hear your story briefly and pick up on it, just intuitively, that's what you're doing.
That's it.
That's what maybe, and again, as the individual goes, so goes the collective. So
Yeah.
is there an is there a seminal evolutionary point that we've just passed or are passing or experiencing, understanding that you
Hmm.
can't just, we can take a snapshot
Hmm.
and go, okay, that's what happened. But you
Yeah.
know as well as I do, because you said it earlier, it just keeps going.
Exactly.
This is our trajectory.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, is there that? Well, take the micro of the macro of that. Like, let's just look at a person's life, right? Like when
Mm,
they turn 12, is that a pivotal time? Like, yes, but also isn't 13 and isn't
mm,
14 and isn't 15 and wasn't 5 and wasn't
mm,
6, right? Like, is this a time of awakening? Yes. But does every potential time have the potential for being that? Yes. And is evolution a continuing, ongoing thing? Absolutely, yes. Otherwise, it'd be really boring if it was just
yeah.
one period of time that came along where you go switch. Now we're turned on to the real stuff, and the other stuff didn't matter as much. Or it's all significant. It's all beautiful, and it's all part of a continuing
Mm,
unfolding that you never ever get to the end of and
mm,
wouldn't want to. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is an amazing time. There are
mm,
things happening that have never happened before. And it's really, really exciting time. And and things are gonna shift massively, like huge. Absolutely, absolutely. But also that's always been the case, and that's always gonna be the case, is from my perspective.
I agree with you. I
Yeah,
do agree with you. I think there is something to be said for the oral traditions, many sacred texts, and a lot of uh, things that have been written down, whether they're propaganda or not. And I'm
mhm.
talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years back,
Right, right.
to
Yeah,
point to this time, including Notre Dame, including Edgar Casey, including Dolores
mhm.
Cannon. Let's
Yeah,
just throw it all in there. But
sure, sure.
but it doesn't change the fact of what you're talking about. And the reality is it's not out there.
Right.
I get the
Yes.
downstream, upstream thing,
Yeah.
but I've come into this past year where it's really anchored and embodied that, I'm not going to
Yes.
be out there. And
Right.
I'm certainly not going to be back there. We've all kind of got to the point now where our past isn't holding us back anymore, the traumas and all the BS and all that stuff,
Right.
but
Right.
also not being locked in or judging ourselves by the future, because we can deplete ourselves proportionally just to the same measure we could by traumas,
Absolutely.
by unrealized dreams, so to speak.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
so I totally get what you're saying. I absolutely feel like, the funny thing is, I told you, I used to ask this question when I start the shows for thousands of shows. And I haven't done it in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
It's kind of moving into something else. But I remember the best answer I ever received was one of the first young people that I ever interviewed. And I interviewed like 7-year-old, 9-year-olds, 11-year-olds. But I think this girl was
Cool.
about 19. Okay. And she had recently awoken and tapped in. And I don't remember what she was transmitting, but you could tell she was lit.
Right.
And I said to her, "Hey, when did you wake up?" She said, "This morning." I said, I went,
Right.
I went,
Maybe
there
the
it is.
best answer.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But now thinking about that now, talking to you, and I mentioned it to somebody I think yesterday or the day before too, because it came back in my mind. I thought, you know what? That's what it is.
Mhm.
That's what it is. But anyway, getting back to what you were saying, like I don't know. There seems to be uh, an immense amount of energy and effort from, let's just say, from timelines, be they parallel, a future, past. I don't know how to explain this, to put emphasis on this time
Mhm.
as if there is, like you said, a choice. Now, is this choice? I'll just use an example using your template because I like it. I am in this existence. We have this vast multitude of converging and diverging energies in this crazy world. And as much as there's inner growth, there's this outer growth of distortion. And I'm at this crossroads, so to speak. I'm anyone, okay? And on one hand, I can go the conventional way and kind of stay in my comfort zone with what I know. But in my body, it doesn't feel fucking right.
Well, then it's
Okay?
more of a discomfort zone,
You know what
isn't
I
it?
mean? Well,
Yeah.
but think about you work with people. Think
Yeah.
about what you're saying. Like, in other words, they want to go this stream, but
Yeah.
they're telling you this thing. So what I'm
Exactly.
trying to say is it feels like that the the point that, in other words, there's no in between anymore. Like the in
Mm-mm.
between is going away.
Mm.
Like this, you're either going to have to go this way or that way,
I see what you're
because
saying.
there's, and maybe there's two primaries out of 8 billion Earths. I don't know but what I'm trying to
Mm.
say, it seems like there's
Yeah.
a clear cut uh, choice that we're coming to, one
Yeah.
in which we can say, F it all. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a reverent way. Like, you know what? I am soul to the bone
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going this way. I don't care about taxes. I don't care about governments. I don't care about bills. I don't care about the way that the world tells me I'm supposed to live. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care about pharmaceuticals. I'm going to follow my soul, and it's gonna keep me in alignment, kind of thing. Or over here, well, I'm going to stay with it because I just, it doesn't feel right, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't make that leap. And I would
Gotcha.
imagine that you run into that a lot, or you have run into that in working with people as a practitioner.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So about the two directions thing, right? Like that goes into the upstream downstream thing. And that is represented by those emotions that you acknowledged. It's something that's so important is our emotions, right? So to me, yes, there are two directions, but it's not just something that's happening now only in this point in time. It's something that is an eternal thing.
Yeah.
You can always be closing your gap or widening your gap between who you really are and who you're letting yourself be right now.
Yeah.
You can always be forking or turning downstream, or you can fork and turn back upstream against who you are, right? And so that sort of simplifies things a little bit for people because you can always feel the difference between something that feels a little better, feels a little worse, right? So, and to understand what that signifies and what that means is really, really important because the reason that you're feeling those emotions and people, whether they realize it or not, are feeling emotions all day, every single second, you're feeling emotions. And what those emotions actually are is they're a communication from an infinite intelligent core of who you really are. This is how you actually speak to source energy or your inner being or what man calls God. This is how you actually speak to it directly. No middleman in between you and the one infinite creator, right, is through your emotions. It speaks in vibration. And what you're receiving when you feel emotion is a communication from that infinite, broader,
Mm,
wiser, older part of who you really are.
mm-hmm,
And what happens with just about everybody, and even once you understand this, you still do this, is you get it twisted. This is the word that I've been using for it. You take this emotional guidance system, and that's what it is. It's a guidance system, and you get it twisted, meaning that something doesn't feel good, therefore you believe it. You
mm-hmm,
say, this feels so awful, it must be true.
mm-hmm,
When the opposite is the case. If something feels so awful, what it means is that your inner being is saying, that's not the way we see it.
mm-hmm,
That's not the way we see it. And that's
mm-hmm,
why it feels so awful to you, because it's actually off the path of who you really are. Not in a way where it's never going to come back or that you're wrong or bad for doing it. It's just an indicator that's letting you know, here's your path and here's you just off in the weeds a little bit. No
mm-hmm,
big deal. You can change back at any time. That's another thing I wanted to say in
mm-hmm,
response to you. It's not something that like, we need to make the decision to go this way or that way, and there's two choices. Yes, there's two choices, but there's always a boat pulling into port. So if this one leaves without you, it's not like, oh, I missed my, you know,
no, no,
there's always one. So at any point in this stream, you can put your boat in and you can start heading downstream.
yeah.
So
And
no
I'm a
matter
big
what,
believer too. Like I do think that every moment comes down to two.
it does.
Like
It
every
really
moment comes
does.
down to two, and then
Yeah.
I'm a absolute 100,000 million% believer that say it's me and you, okay, or say it's
Right.
me and me. It doesn't. I don't know how you want to say
Sure.
this, but
Yes, you
and
and
one
you.
goes one way, technically upstream, technically downstream, but
Hmm.
the reality is they end up like this, like almost
Yeah.
like a
Oh,
DNA strand, right? You're
oh yeah.
always
And
coming
you can't
back.
get it wrong.
So it's just one choice of going one way, one choice of okay, you can say it like from a soul level. You might even say, because
Yes.
that's really what you're talking about. You're talking
Oh yeah.
about
Oh
from
yeah.
a soul level,
Yes.
uh, that which we struggle with that you're talking about
Hmm.
is our perception based on this realm that the you, me, we, and it created. Okay,
Yes.
which is which is a polarity, which is
Hmm.
universal in dimension.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, but this is a dualistic polarity that we're coming out of. So it wasn't just like a polarity; it was like a polarity with all kinds of distortion on steroids.
Hmm.
But yeah, I get what you're saying, and when I hear you, I think to myself something that I throw around in my head a lot, which is like what's happening to you? Because I do believe it's a very much a present experience. It's not about yesterday. It's not about tomorrow.
Exactly.
There is something to be said for the big mo, is what I call it, the momentum that you're talking about, the
Yeah.
trajectory, because
Yes. Yes.
obviously that's the way you're going to go if you're
Yeah.
propelling that way. But I
Right.
think to myself, yeah, it's kind of like I had to get in touch with my feelings at the very
Yeah.
base human level. You
Yes.
sit with anger, you sit with sadness, you sit
Oh
with
yeah.
these things until you say, like you're saying in a different way, really the same way, which is, hey, hello, this is part of you. You can't throw it over there.
Hmm.
Uh, just bring it in here. And then it falls into the big sea of soul that you are, right? So I think to myself, okay, well, maybe I'm not making decisions based on my feelings anymore. And what I mean by that is I get angry, make a choice based on that dominant emotion.
Ah, yes.
But I am navigating by feeling.
Yes.
So I take a breath. The anger was present. Maybe something else was present. I sit with them. Boom. The field, the horizontal of my emotions balances, and now I make my choice, my thought, my word, my action.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So it's not like my feelings aren't the driver. Okay. It's
Right.
almost like instead of having one of 10 or 12 drivers at any given time, and maybe sometimes they team up, like jealousy
Right.
and anger or something,
Right. Right. Right.
but now it's one voice.
Yes.
It's one voice of my one multi-dimensional and I believe multi-human being, because I believe this multi-dimensionality thing, we have all kinds of voices within us.
Oh
Some
yeah.
might call it personalities.
I was gonna say like
Okay.
having dwarves and
You know what I mean? Like it's like it's not just all out there. In fact, it's all in here.
oh
And
yeah.
that's what I think is the real gold of this experience. And we've yet to really tap into the potential. It's like we stuck our big toe in the water and
Mhm.
we're, and the nice thing about what's happening too, even though it's an individualistic thing, you
Mhm.
know, and as we said, 8 billion people, 8 billion Earths, but there is something about this co-creative, cooperative element that's occurring, but
It's true.
not like it used to. Hey, let's go build a building, boom, boom, boom. No, no, no. This is like, hey, man, let's take a step. Let's take a step. It's
Hmm.
almost like the old world's falling away, and this new tech, or this old tech that we are, is taking these steps together
Hmm.
and and realizing through the mirror of what we're seeing, that we are the tech. We are the tech, the technology. I mean, this is it,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, that's a really good realization for this period in time. Absolutely. Especially with AI coming out and everything. I like to look at, the idea of AI and then going like, well, wow, what about II, which is infinite intelligence
Right?
that, as you're saying, we are the tech. You find out that you're actually the most magnificent piece of, technology that could ever be invented, that you're already connected into the main frame of all that is. And you really sense that as I'm explaining through these emotions. That's how you really get a real sense of your connection to the divine and to all that is. And I really want to touch on again after what you said. Um, I was already talking about getting it twisted, right? But I really want to like anchor that in that because you mentioned like, I'm no longer am I getting angry and then acting from that place, right? But instead I'm letting that cool out. I'm coming back to a more centralized thing and then acting kind of, aside from my emotions, but I want to like paint it even possibly maybe even more clearly and saying that, yeah, of course, yeah, you don't want to take like a knee-jerk reaction from a place that for you feels negative, right? Like you don't, that would be like just having a reaction and then just without thinking it through at all, just going with something that doesn't feel good, right? Um, but since you're always feeling these emotions, right? You got to not get it twisted, like I'm saying, right? So if an emotion doesn't feel good, I'm just going to repeat it, even though I already said it, because it's so I repeat this all the time because it's so important. And that if something feels not good, the tendency is, and in fact, anytime you're not feeling good, you're buying into an idea that this not good feeling thing is true. Otherwise, why would it bother you? Right?
Wait, let's slow up there because I want to make sure I understand you,
Yes,
because
yes.
you lost me. Okay,
Oh,
but
okay. Okay.
I know you got it down. I just
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
so okay, let's just break it down real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say and yeah, I think that example about anger is an extreme thing. I just want to say, and I'm not talking about
Sure.
myself. I'm talking about our whole, what I
People.
picked up from the reflections of my life, these last few years, whatever, and myself. So I think we've gone from a point of virtually total conditioning. Let's go back to pre-World War II. We could go to a narrative and tap into it. Like I said, I don't really care about narratives, but if you look at the history of the last 120 years, you look at the Federal Reserve, you look at the income tax, look at World War I, World War II, you look at the migration of the Nazis to to NASA and to CIA and blah 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 blah. Right. So there was this, and you had the conveyor belt, you had the subdivision, you had the corporate ladder thing, and so there was this inducement to the realm that that to your point convinced us that this is all real. So therefore, anything that I experience based on this, I'm thinking it's real, and I'm not even checking it. Now we're moving into a different age where people are starting to question things. So it's a little bit different. So maybe
Yes.
it's not a case where somebody notices, wait, man, I can't get angry or sad
Hmm.
or whatever it might be. or even
Right.
get too elated. Too much light is just like too much dark. Okay. You know what I mean? Now I'm talking about in perspective of this realm. Okay.
Well, it all serves a function. I'll agree with
Yeah,
you
yeah.
on.
I'm saying from the human condition, trying to learn and evolving. Now I can look at it and go, uh, okay, I've realized now that I've had these knee-jerk reactions, or I've acted too quickly when I've gone through something like this anger. By the same token, too much success could breed arrogance, or could breed, superiority or something
That
like
wouldn't
that.
feel good.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
get that. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that, like, with what you're talking about in terms of how it feels, okay, are
Emotion.
you, yeah, you're saying that if you don't feel good,
Yes.
then your soul, my soul,
Yes.
is
Yes.
basically trying to
Redirect you.
is presenting something to me, basically, that
Exactly.
I have been, look, I'm a big believer in, and so everything's central in me, or in the
Yes.
individual.
Yeah.
I cannot divorce myself from any aspect of the universe.
Right.
Okay.
It's all connected.
That's
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
I've taken the darkest fucking, demons and the
Oh yeah.
highest angels, and I've
Oh
taken them
yeah.
into my heart many times over the years.
Oh yeah.
And so if you look at that basic template of two, which is what
Yeah.
we
Two
have, these
directions.
choices of two,
Yeah.
right?
Two
Then
directions. Yeah.
so it's, I don't know if it's and this is the question. So if, just to be clear, if
Yeah.
it's a feeling of discomfort at all,
Yes.
obviously it's a message for us. And we're reaching a point now, in my opinion, where we're learning not to project it on others, or blame or shame something outside of ourselves. We're taking
Right.
responsibility and
Yes.
processing it through ourselves, and learning to
Yeah.
communicate and connect and act and think and speak in this more conscious way. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
think is that what you're, okay. I got you. Go
Totally.
ahead.
Yeah. I mean, again, what I'm saying is that if something feels less than good, that emotion, what it actually signifies is basically like your inner being, or who you really are, saying that's not the way we see it.
Mm,
And when it feels good, okay, when you're feeling those positive emotions, right? And there's a whole range of those too. What it's saying is, yes, yes,
mm,
we're right there. We're on the same page with you. And you know who that is that's saying that? That's infinite intelligence. And,
mhm.
and infinity is a pretty big number. So they're really smart. They're
No, no,
really,
I agree. I
you
mean,
know what I mean? So
I call it the I am soul. We have two
yes,
sayings here. One is
yes,
I am soul, and the human is the hero. Or
yes.
if I feel a little bit blissed out, I'll say the human is the fucking hero. But
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
but going back to what you said, yeah.
Mhm.
And okay, so okay, if it feels good, okay,
Yes.
that saying. There's a saying, and I can't remember all three parts of it. I remember the one part of it. It's like, if you're mad, don't do this. If you're this, don't do that.
Right. Don't
If
go
you're
to bed
feel
angry or yeah.
Yeah, if you're feeling really good, don't make a promise. When you're in the high of high, don't make any promises.
Well,
What I'm trying to what I got from that, what I gleaned from that was
mhm.
to, again, it's the same process. If I have, let's just say, on this side of the line, be it dark or light, I'm at the 99th percentile of whatever that emotion is, and
Mhm.
over here I'm at the 99th percentile of whatever that emotion is.
Mhm.
The same process of bringing it back in. My friend calls me. She used to think I was full of chaos. How do you do the things that you do? That didn't seem like, then all of a sudden it just happens, and there it is. And you got this festival going on, or you got this going on, or you got that going on.
Right.
And
Yeah.
she very smart lady, and she digest, because we did some projects together. So she digested this for about a year, and she goes, I finally realized that there's two paths. There's the path of control, which is actually
Yes.
chaos because you can't
Yes.
control.
You
And she said,
can't. You
then there's
cannot.
the path of fate. And I said,
Mm.
what? And I didn't
Yeah.
really care for that name. I said, because I knew she was going to point it my direction. She goes,
It's a good
it's the
way of
path of
putting
fate. And I said, well, what does that mean? She goes, well, you are okay with whatever happens.
it. Exactly. It's
And I went,
unconditional.
okay,
Yeah.
that's the thing. So I'm over here in the 99th percentile of light, 99th percentile of this.
Hmm.
One feels really good. One
Amazing.
feels less good from the human
Horrible.
condition, but
Yeah.
yet both are 49 degrees from center. So,
Hmm.
so it's like, like my daughter. My daughter had one of my daughters had a really serious thing happen. 24 years old, right? Just like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, out of nowhere, right? And and long story short, she just went. She was feeling bad, or something happened. She goes into like a clinic, and they did a ultrasound or whatever, and she had I think they're called embolism. She had a clot in her aorta, and they're like, you need to go to the hospital now, like right now. You need to go to the emergency room. So long story short, she goes to the emergency room that evening. Next morning, they do surgery. Okay, and it was like obviously very life threatening, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when I found out that night, I took both ends, and I said, okay, if she leaves, if she's going to be gone,
Yeah.
then, and then I felt the emotions of it.
Right.
I didn't go off too long, but a few tears dropped. My
Right.
heart, the human, but my soul was on fire
Mm.
because of the connection and because of the moment, even though she wasn't right there with me, right? And
Hmm.
then I took the other one, which is obvious, right? You're like, hey, and then I kind of bring them to the middle and say, whatever is the highest and best good for all,
Yeah.
right?
I
You
often
know,
use that phrase
you know
myself.
what I mean? So
The
it's like,
highest.
it's, it, I don't know. I just like talking to you just kind of stimulates me I guess because I see a lot of myself in you,
Thank
looking back, like through the years. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, so that's so some of the stuff that you're saying is part of why I go so hard on this explanation of getting it twisted,
Mm,
because we all do it. If you are a human being in a physical body, you get it twisted sometimes. If you didn't get it twisted, you would never feel it bad at all, because feeling bad by definition is getting it twisted, not understanding what the signal is that you're, or that communication is that you're feeling. And I just want to speak to a little bit um, your idea of coming back to center and everything, because it sort of seems to imply that don't get too feeling too good either, because you want to be balanced and you want to be in the center. And I kind of I like where you're going with it, and to one degree, I'll say I'll say that no matter where you are on this emotional spectrum, whether you're feeling wonderful or terrible or somewhere in between, I'll say that you can't get it wrong, and that it's all part of it. And there's nothing has gone wrong, even if something feels really awful, right? So that's kind of the unifying thing for me between all of it, is that even the dark parts, right,
mm,
actually are sending these signals that are saying, I really don't like this, right? It might be something about humanity even, right? Like, I don't like what's happening with over here, or I don't really like seeing my planet in this state, right? Or it could be something in your personal life, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Like, if you want, or if you have a preference, or if you see something and you do like it or you don't like it, it's sacred. It's sacred that you would know for you what's best for you and what feels good to you. But even if something feels really bad, you are launching those desires. In other words, you're sending a signal to the all that is, that says, this is what I prefer, this is what I don't prefer. And and when you send that signal of what you don't prefer, that is received by the all that is, and it is part of the unfolding that will come forth. So even in that not feeling good, you're not getting it wrong, because that still launches something
absolutely.
that will then. But I also want to say that in the
Mm.
feeling really, really good, you're not getting it wrong either,
No,
because
no, 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 no,
because
no. No,
that
I'm just
really.
saying, that, okay, this is what I'm saying. Because I've had many highs and many lows,
Yes, yes,
right?
we do.
Like I just went through a process last year.
Yeah.
I built soulogy, worked on soulogy every day for hours and hours for many, many years since 2012, right?
Yeah, I can tell.
And then I kind of got this download in early 23. You need to get off of social media and start soulagynetwork.com. And we go from, like 150,000 people on our platforms to, I think there was a few hundred we started with.
Hmm.
And certainly grateful and blessed for it.
Yeah.
As going through the human experience, ultimately getting to a point, you got to let that go. You have to let it go because you can't put the work into it anymore due to circumstances in your life.
Okay,
This is a year
gotcha.
ago. It doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Something's off.
Mm-hmm.
Yet
Okay.
this was
Yeah.
the culmination of your work,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
you have a good subscription base that you can start to breathe for once,
Right. Right.
and have some stability.
Yeah.
But something didn't feel right.
Mm.
Okay. Now,
Mm.
whether it was something happening collectively, I really think that we can just disregard the collective in the sense that everything runs through me. It's all for me. It's all about me.
Yeah.
And my
You.
integrity is within myself, my
Yes.
credibility, my humility, which is a big word. And
Yes.
so what I'm saying about the range of the spectrum
Mm-hmm.
uh, of reality, even. Let's take it beyond emotions. Let's take it to belief systems. Let's take it
Well, it's
any
all
at
connected again. Yeah.
exactly. So at any
Yeah.
time, because you're that's what you're saying. Your belief
Yeah.
system's based on how you looked at that and how you looked at that.
Yes.
And let me
Yes.
just say one thing. I love your hat. Like I
Oh,
said,
thank you.
optimist, positive.
Thank
It
you. Thank
doesn't matter where I'm at on this
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
I think I'm built, everyone's built different. I'm built a lot like you. I can be in the shithole and I'm
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
optimistic and positive, right?
Straight
And
up.
I can be
Yeah.
over here, right? But what I'm saying is what I've learned is that anything can be taken from you at any time.
Mm-hmm.
When we throw what I call an absolute down on the universe, when we say, universe, this is how it is, or my friend, this is how it is, uh,
Mm-hmm.
the universe is going to come knock on the door and say, okay, time for the next lesson. Okay. So I
Mm.
respect that a lot. Maybe that's because when I started my journey, there, like I said, interviewing a lot of people, there always seemed to be like a successive number of traumas, and then boom, something happens, and
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
have these divine episodes, and you have,
Right.
I had apparitions, I had, this and that happening every day. But at the
Mm.
same time, I was in the shithole,
Mm-hmm.
homeless, scraping together $5 to go to McDonald's,
Oh, yeah.
to eat for the day, find a place to sleep. So there was this simultaneous thing happening. And in that process, and I believe this is how the dark nights of the soul work, is we
Mm-hmm.
get to see both ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Like say in this case, a deep and dense physical reality on the streets of Houston, in the,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, the
Wow.
underground scene. And then over here, you're holding the hands of angels and
Yeah.
being visited. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like that. That to me is, I guess what I'm saying is I revere. I see them as both, and it's not just words.
Oh,
And the reason is
yeah.
because you can only, I can only reach to that direction and tap into it
Yes.
to the number of degree I've reached in that direction. So in
Mm.
other words, you could
Yeah.
say I can only go 100 points above the line
Mm-hmm.
to the mountaintop
Right.
if I've gone 100 below the line. That range gives us the contrast. Like you were saying earlier, I think you said something to the effect of, how could I, in other words, how could I appreciate
Right.
this bliss and this joy
Right.
if I
Right.
didn't have anything to
Something to compare
contrast
it
it with?
to. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
exactly. And I don't think you necessarily need to go there to be aware that it's there. For instance, just I remember this from Alan Watts, the very beginning of my, awakening, so many years ago. That, how could you feel safe in your bed at night, right? Which is a really good feeling, by the way, right? I'm in my
Yeah.
bed, safe. It's a great
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
How could you feel safe in your bed at night unless there was something out there to be safe from? Like safe from what?
Yeah.
Right? So that thing
People.
that you don't want is actually doing you a favor of creating this sensation of safety, right? So yeah, it's totally all part of it. But I don't think you necessarily need to go there. Just I think you need to have the capacity for both, right? Like if
Well,
you,
okay, let me ask you this. Let's put it this way. I love
yeah,
this conversation, by the way. These
yay,
are the
me
kind of
too.
conversations we need to have. Okay, let me
Yes.
say this. You can't teach me anything. You
Mhm.
can't heal me.
Right, because I
Okay,
can't
hang on.
put
So,
anything on
so,
you. Yeah.
so, so when we break it down to what we have in common, I'm with you. I believe we're eternal souls. So let's say one thing is common denominator. I am soul. All right.
Oh
We
yeah.
we are soul. Okay. Number
Yeah.
two, what's the only other thing I can say? Absolutely.
Hmm.
Well, based on everything I can see in front of me,
Hmm.
we've both been subjected to the human condition.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, so in other words, what is the point? The point is that we're like the dog chasing its tail, trying
It
to find the answer, and then we bite the tail and realize it was us. So
was
the
us the
point
whole.
is
Yeah.
the value, the lesson, the expansion comes in the experience of it. You can
Absolutely.
tell me something and show me something and vice
Right.
versa. You go, wow,
Right.
that's a good idea. I'm going to go check this out or check his work
Right.
out or look at, look up Alan Watts or this. But the
Oh yeah.
reality is it's the experience that teaches us. It's the experience that the
Absolutely agree.
universe asks for. And
Yeah.
so we come in here as fractals of the universal and we say, you know what? I'm going to, in my own unique way, in that kind of like that triad of where I can say pure intention, open heart, merge my free will with what I know at this time with universal will in that trajectory,
Hmm.
that's where I'm going to learn. And
Yeah.
and I and I firmly believe like if you look at someone like you,
Hmm.
what you've done, what you've shared with people verbally in groups in your book, etc., powerful. It's relevant. It's expansive.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's mutual, and it's certainly it's most impacted on yourself. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
the fact, if you just look at it, take the human out of it, you just look at your. If I look at you as energy, okay,
Yes. Yes.
you could be sitting in your bedroom these past 10 years,
Yes.
writing in a journal,
Hmm.
some other methodology, chanting, not even on internet.
Yeah.
And because of the expansion and illumination of you as a conscious human hybrid soul
Yes.
affect the world,
Yes.
that's where your real effect is, right?
Totally agree. Oh,
You
I
know what I
love
mean?
you
You know what
saying
I'm
that.
talking about? Like the
Yes.
the recognition thing is
Thank you.
part of, I believe, is part of what's falling away because it's it, when you know it, you don't have to say nothing,
You know
you
it
know?
like you know it like you know it.
But
Yeah.
it's not like we don't do these things. We do these things because we want to do these
Want
things,
to do, don't
right?
not because it's
Yeah,
required or needed.
exactly. Yeah. We don't do it for
Exactly.
recognition. We don't do it
Exactly.
for, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I
Exactly.
love these conversations.
Oh man, it's so good, like what you say, because to to be able to recognize like how influential you are as an individual just through your experience is so huge, especially for all these people who
Mm,
really want to help. You know, all these people really
mm.
want to help the world and everything, and don't realize that the impact of your own energetic journey has on the collective, as you're saying. Like if I get tuned in, tapped in, turned on, if I get on that high, if I get on the same page with my inner being, one who is tuned in like that is more powerful than millions who are not.
That's right.
And in
That's
that,
Abraham Hicks, man. One,
that's
one is,
Abraham. That's
yeah.
100% Abraham. That's
Hawkins says 750,000. Hicks says a million, right? One awakened soul is the
yeah.
same energy as a million unawakened, something
And
like
you
that.
can feel it when you
Hmm.
get tuned, when you get turned on, you can feel, you just see magic unfold, not even just in your life, but even on a global scale. You can
Mm.
even see your effect on that thing. You can feel yourself bring out the sun. You can
Yeah.
on a cloudy day, you can bring out the sun, you know.
Absolutely, man.
And if you can do
Absolutely.
that, you think you can affect other stuff. There's
Dude,
nothing
it's,
beyond your ability to affect.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
seems to be something, I mean, for every, all the conversation, but like there does seem to be something occurring, regardless of whether it's some kind of pre-programmed simulation, whatever. But again, there's that common thread, that golden thread.
Yes.
This happened to me again. This is like the second time in 4 or 5 days, different dog. And I'm 2 blocks from the beach. So I will go out to the beach right around sunset and, and just, do what we do, right? You just take it all in and see what the reflection is going to show you. And you meditate
Oh yeah.
communion, right?
So good.
So I went last night and it was a hot day. I was telling you, it was hot, man.
I bet it was
And
beautiful though.
I'm dying, man. And so I go sit down in my spot and I feel this lick on my shoulder. And there's no one on the beach. And it was a dog. It was this dog. And the 3 days before it was another dog. But I didn't see it like that. I
Hmm.
saw, I'm starting to see it where everything is a reflection of me.
Connected.
This
Yeah.
little town I found myself in,
Not a
the two
coincidence.
cats I'm living with, and I've never lived with cats before. I mean, like, what I'm learning from them, and the communication, and the wind and the trees, and when the rain comes, and when the lightning strikes, right when you're thinking of
Yeah.
something, and you were talking about earlier, you were talking about like that feeling, like
Yes.
I've noticed over the years
Hmm.
doing this show. And a lot of people talk about these tones we get, right? These universal tones that will go off.
Hmm.
But I have found over
Frequency.
the years, to me, it's irrefutable. It's just my own truth. When I'm talking to somebody like you, and
Hmm.
they might be talking, or I might be talking, or we are talking, however you want to look at it, and these tones will go off, and they're like letting us know that you're on track, like you're
Oh
speaking
yeah,
truth. It's a truth
exactly.
frequency. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Ab-
So those kind of things that, like we can only see what, 95% of the visible of the light spectrum. There's only 5% visible. So if you look
yeah,
at that as a parallel with the other sensitivities, they're all coming online to a
oh yeah,
greater degree, including our six
definitely.
senses and psychic ability
Def
based on whatever's going on, whether it was pre-planned or not, Kali Yugas or whatever the narratives you want to follow. But I really, really believe that the strongest code that we can pull down, so
yep,
to speak, the, the, the greatest potential of awareness that we can pull down in any moment is in the present moment when we're having a conversation with each other.
yep,
Because I really feel like that whole thing you were talking about with who's really talking to you when the emotions or you feel this or feel that, I
yep,
feel like that we're reached a point now where it's a unilateral thing. In other words, we're not just bringing in information, data, and code and knowledge and that, we're giving it. So it's like an infinity, right?
yeah.
It's
Sending,
feeding us
receiving.
as we're feeding them,
Yeah,
so to speak.
absolutely. I mean, where
Mm,
would the divine be without something to express through?
mm,
Absolutely. It's definitely a two-way street. I mean,
mm.
the infinity's got nothing to do but us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, there's infinite intelligence, and then there's us and our relationship with it, and we're broadcasting, receiving mechanisms, and what you're putting out is what you're getting back. You know what I mean? So
Did you ever read that book? This old book. When this stuff first started to really break open in the '80s, was Shirley MacLaine Out on a Limb. I think they even made a movie about it.
I don't
She
think
was
I've
an
read that one.
She's
No,
an actress. She wrote like three of them, but the first one was Out on a Limb. I think they did make a movie because I remember
I
seeing
am
it.
going
But
to write it down now that you're
yeah,
telling me about
but
it.
she was talking about, well, she was explaining what she'd come into through her life experience, a lot like people have on this show. She had a
Hmm.
little wake up. She had a past life memory. She hooked up with an old flame from past life, and but there's one point uh, in the movie where she goes out onto the beach, and I didn't understand it in the '80s, even though I was tapped into to in reading and all that. And she threw her hands up in the air and said, "I am God. I am God.
That's it.
I am
That's it.
God." And
Yeah.
people were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But but hey, you know what? I mean, at a minimum, we're made, not to, borrow from the Bible's words, I think, made in the image.
Yeah.
You know what
You
I mean? So if
you
we're
are
made in
that
the
which I
image,
am.
then that means through the golden thread, we have accessibility and
Yes.
connection to every aspect. I'll just call it the mother. Okay.
Sure. Perfect.
Uh,
Perfect.
we can tap into any and all of it because what has produced us is us,
Exactly.
right? You know?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Abraham has said the you are that which source is. Um, I mean, you mentioned the Bible. I think they said the kingdom of heaven is within you.
Mhm.
All that I am, you are too. These sorts of quotes. I don't know if I'm quoting it perfectly, but
Well,
I
the kingdom of heaven thing, that's actually Egyptian, man. I didn't know that till a couple of years ago.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
in whatever the Egyptian, what's it, Book of the Dead or something. I don't remember.
Oh, the
But yeah,
Tibetan Book of the
it
Dead.
kind of, yeah, that one too. But it kind of threw, I was like, oh shit, I thought that was in the Bible. But then if you go back and look at everything,
Yeah.
they're all basically rewrites from something before. You know what I
Totally.
mean? Like
Yeah.
Horus was a immaculate birth, and it
Yeah.
had 12, and it's just like three kings. It's all the same thing. So these are maybe these are the seeds we left consciously the physicalized
Absolutely.
golden thread, or maybe they're propaganda and bullshit somebody put out to try to create some type of friction at this point in time. It doesn't matter because we're tapped into
Hmm.
that which you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the way you talk about it, which I think is very useful,
Mhm.
is is to take it to a human level, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
Like how does this vehicle drive? Okay, well,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? It's like how
Yeah.
does it drive? And you're talking about what is it trying to tell you, Now, I can be positive, optimistic. This is how I'm going to choose to fly this thing, but
Yeah.
I still have to be in touch. This is why I like what you're doing because
Right.
you're like, these are not like friends and enemies. These are
No, they're
me.
all
This is me trying to talk to me and to show
exactly.
me something.
Yes.
It's like the
Yeah.
last place we ever thought to look was ourselves. Now we have.
Oh man. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so true. It's so true. You are that which you seek, kind of
Mm.
thing. Absolutely. Yeah. Just realizing again, I mean, if there's one thing that I could leave everybody with, it would definitely be, you know, that those emotions will not lie to you, but you can get it twisted. So if you understand that feels good means it's on the highest golden path for all involved,
Mm.
and if you understand that it's that if it doesn't feel good, it means that you're mucking that up or postponing that temporarily. You can never ruin it all the way. Nothing's ever wrong. But just to remember that good feels good and not so helpful at this moment feels less than good, right? And to not get it backwards where you go, oh, it feels too good, I better not stay here. And then and
Well,
get it
yeah.
backwards to where you go, oh, it feels awful, it must be true. If it feels good, bad, it's not true, not with a capital T true, period. It might be
Yeah.
true with lowercase t, but it's
Yeah.
not the truth of your highest soul's knowing. And that's
Well,
that's precisely why it doesn't feel good. And if it does feel good, then hallelujah, you better bet that it is in alignment with your highest truths
okay.
knowing.
I
Yeah.
love these conversations.
Yes.
So I've had two out of body experiences. I know many people that one of the biggest, I don't want to say clickbait in a bad way, but
Hmm.
um, one of the bigger themes that you can find on these platforms are near death experiences. And if you
Yeah.
listen to near death
Oh, I love it.
experiences or out of body experiences,
Yeah.
they have these stories, and Buddha came, or Jesus came, or Archangel
Yeah.
Michael came,
I
or
read
my
so
my
many of those.
grandfather came. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they all pretty much follow a template of a life review. So
Hmm.
you're able to see your life. Remember, we talked about the different facets of that diamond. So each one of them is a different perception. All right.
Hmm.
And you have availability to that. So you're
Hmm.
watching this life review, and the whole point of the life review is to acclimate you with unity consciousness and oneness
Hmm.
by including the human vibratorial field, the emotions, right? So
Hmm.
what happens is you feel the effect of every thought, word, and action you've taken as you
Hmm.
look at this life review. Now, that's okay, right? I mean, like that's that you can get that. That where it really gets me to thinking and to nothingness is where the other part comes in, which is how did that other aspect feel? And it doesn't matter what your intentions were. Okay. So
Hmm.
I know that if my intentions are in the right place, as far as I know of myself, because there are certain things I'm unconscious of, right? Which is part of this life review uh, template that I've seen over and over. That I'm being shown how I affected somebody, even when my heart was wide open and I had the perfect attention because they're looking from a different lens.
Hmm.
So it's more information for me to gather from to again proceed with life. So if I look at, for instance, like, and I've been there, man. I mean, like I've had many successes and we talked about the EKG thing, but
Yeah.
like, to, something feels really good. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But there always is that element to keep me on my toes. And I guess that's for me, where the rubber meets the road. And
Hmm.
always, we're questioning the reality. We're questioning the government. We're questioning, it's like Buddha and, was it Osho? Buddha, I know for sure. Somebody would come to him, sit down with him, and then when he got done, he'd say, "Now, forget everything I said
Mm.
and go make your own choice." So
Yeah.
we're getting all this information. And I think one of the things that I see physicalizing now, you can call it a higher telepathy, you can call it intuition, you can call it all of the above, but it's an active consciousness that is changing where it's not ego dominated. Because if you talk about the emotions being in the driver, as we were talking about earlier, that's
Yeah.
basically your egoic. Okay. That's identity. That's, woe is me. But the thing
Mhm.
is, I think we're starting to get to a point now where we can feel the other person. We don't have to be understood so much because there's more impact in the conscientiousness
Mhm.
of
Okay.
the emission of our energy, be it in a thought, which I think is really where we're getting to, words and
Yeah.
action. Because
Yeah.
the thoughts, and then that's part of the whole feeling thing, right? When you're dealing with a person, like you talk
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you can hear words, you can hear words from somebody,
Yes.
but the thoughts are over here. Like, so, what's going on here? Just
Right.
like
It
me
doesn't
closing
match.
soulogy down. I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
It should be the pinnacle of uh, my work or whatever,
That's really
but
interesting.
something
Yeah.
doesn't feel right. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And respecting that,
Yeah.
especially
Good for you.
when you don't know. Like we as
Right.
humans, we want to know what's going on. We want to know
Right.
why. We want to know. I think
Right.
that's
Right.
going
Right.
out the window. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Letting go of the how is a big thing that we talk about all the time.
Mm,
Knowing exactly how something's going to pan out. Because what I've come to understand is that from a human standpoint, you're not even supposed to need to know how, or
yeah,
you're not even built to be able to know how. What we're built to be able to do is to be able to feel the difference between what we prefer and what we don't,
yeah,
and be able to like launch these desires, right? Even if it's desires on the behalf of other people, right? On the behalf of your world, right? Those are desires too, right? Desires for you to have plenty of food as well, and for
yeah.
everyone to have a place to sleep at night. All of those things are part of your desires that get launched. But and now I'm forgetting what I was going to say
That's all
about.
right. Well,
Uh,
but I like to simplify things, and like,
yes, yes.
one of the things that you're saying is, and I use this analogy a lot over the years, which is, imagine I'm a kid, you're a kid,
Uh-huh.
and we're 4 years old, right? And
Uh-huh.
and they open a door and they put us into this playroom, and the playroom's like 2,000 square feet, and it has all these different modules and different toys and stuff.
I
So
love
as
it.
kids, we're gonna go to what we gravitate to,
Yes,
right? We're
absolutely.
gonna go have experiences that we enjoy, things
Hmm.
that make us happy, you know.
Yeah.
Childlike wonder, I think, is huge. Innocence is huge.
Yeah.
Humility is huge. And I will say this: if I'm not getting humbled, and I don't mean humbled like getting my ass kicked, but although that can happen,
Mm.
if I'm not having two or three spaces of humility in terms of gratitude, in terms of, oh my God, I was stupid. I just figured that out. What a gift. I don't have to play that game anymore. I don't have to play in
Mhm.
that into the playroom anymore that has a bad smell that induced me by the colors of it or something. So I think the
100%.
humility is a big thing, but yeah, it's that childlike wonder. Imagine going through life, which is I think what we're evolving to, and
Mhm.
just doing what you love, right? Being with who you
Exactly.
love, doing what you love, feeling
Exactly.
how you love.
And that's the best thing that you can do for everyone else, which is what's an
Yeah.
amazing thing about that.
Yeah.
It seems like if I take something, then it takes it away from someone else.
Mm.
But actually, that's not the case. The only way that you can help anybody else is through example, even if that
Right.
example is just an energetic one, where you're, like you were saying, your energetic, presence is radiating out to the all that is, and you're getting an effect back from that. So then on the converse side, people feel like, well, if I could, if they're suffering, then I need to suffer too, or
Yeah.
that they feel like that they can deprive themselves of well-being enough to help somebody else. But like one of the Abraham things is like you can't get sick enough to help sick people get well. You
That's
can't
right.
get poor enough to help poor people get rich. And so if you're depleting yourself on the behalf of other people, then you're actually becoming less useful to yourself and less useful to them. And pretty soon you got nothing to give anybody, and you're just as
That's right.
bad off as they
Yeah.
are.
That's
But
that
if you're,
people talk about people pleasing and over giving. What's the difference
yeah,
between, and I'm not taking, I get what you're saying, taking
yeah,
nothing away from
yeah,
a situation that's presented to us, but it is all about us. So
yeah,
if I look at some horrific part of the world where there's some BS going on with
right.
children,
Yes,
or if it's my friend or sister or somebody comes in the door
right.
and they're carrying a burden,
Yeah,
you're saying we've been inclined to take that on ourselves, right? And
right.
it depletes us. And
Does.
then what I
And
really
not
like,
that we shouldn't help.
no,
That's
no, no, no. I'm
the
saying
mention.
like again, how does it feel? Like part of helping would
Yeah,
be, hey, I can do this up to this point, but I can't
yeah,
up to this point. But what I
right,
really like
totally.
is when you say, okay, so when I first went out on the street, one of the
Mhm.
first things I heard was, because I mean, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, nothing was left, right?
Yeah, so you know what it
Except
feels like.
for all my burden. I mean, all my responsibilities were gone. My children were gone. You know,
Right, yeah.
my spouse was gone. My job was gone. My car, everything was gone. My reputation was gone. So they told me, they said, and of course I'm walking around and I'm going, God, what about my children? You know, I mean, I've had them in my house for 23 years. You know, I've never been without a kid, you know, in the house, you know.
Yeah,
And so you're thinking about these things as a human, right? The guilt, the shame, the blame. What could I have
right,
done
right.
different? And I heard the best thing you can do is put yourself in the best possible spiritual health. And that is the greatest thing you can do for yourself and for them, even if you never talk to them again.
Straight up,
See,
dude.
you know what I mean? So
Straight.
like,
And it's so true, and it's obvious once you see it like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say that's another way to say the Trinity energy because like
Mhm.
what I'm doing is serving equally in me as it is in you and as it is in the collective, you know? So
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Absolutely. You can't help yourself without helping other people, because part of the intentions that you will find in your soul's truth is that you do want the best for everybody else.
yeah,
So if you follow out selfishness to its logical conclusion, guess what happens? You start helping a bunch of people
yeah,
because it's part of what you want genuinely, not in a like because I should or because I have to way, but in a because that's the only way that I feel fulfilled. That's the only way that I feel good, is like when I'm completing that circuit. You know what I
right.
mean? And
Yeah,
so when you get this healthy selfishness, and maybe you mentioned humility too, maybe more of a healthy humility, right? Because there's definitely an unhealthy form of that too, a healthy unhealthy humility, you know what I mean, where people shrink themselves so small that, again, like we were talking about, now they don't feel, you know it might be the opposite of like pride, right? Like they think pride is so bad that they make themselves the opposite of pride, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
That's
Where
yeah,
Whereas you want to be proud of who you are, you know what I mean? You want to be proud of what you're doing, right? And that's not necessarily arrogance to be one who is proud, sure-footed, lighthearted,
yeah,
right? Like a lot of people would see someone who's just lighthearted as like arrogant. And
uh,
whereas all they are is lighthearted. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. I don't get so much of that. I get uh, like you're childlike or like a boy, like you're not taking things serious enough, you know, because
Right.
you have that lightness of being. But I
Yeah.
think that the humility thing is like I think there's certain words that uh, that aren't going with us. Like people talk about this transition 3D to 5D, new earth or new heaven or heaven on earth or no,
Right, right.
but I'm just talking consciousness. I'm talking
Yeah.
like something's going on. Things are lightening up. I don't care
Hmm.
about the distortion out there. It looks just more ridiculous, which just tells me that we're walking in the truth more because
Me too.
yeah, you're right. But like y- you know, like for me, it'll be like okay, let me think of something real quick. Okay, like yes, I share a lot of memes in Soulogy, like 200 or 300 a day, and I try
That's
to
how
be
many you share on there?
yeah, yeah. I try to be conscientious
Wow.
about it, and I try to do my best to, but that's a lot of stuff. So you kind of got to go through. You just do the best you can. But there's
Wowzers.
certain ones that always stick out of my mind
I bet.
for a day or two, and so I saw one yesterday, and it said to me, not that I was off the reservation or anything, but it was a hot fucking day. And it was, you know, and I'm having like ascension symptoms and I can't, I got like,
Yeah.
vertigo and shit. And
Right, right.
so I
Yeah.
saw this meme and it said, I have a roof, I have clothes, I have food, I have water.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful. And
Oh
so
yeah. Oh yeah.
it shifted me right back to 14
Yeah.
years ago.
That's huge.
It shifted me back to 14 years ago, and I thought,
When you didn't have those things.
well, another thing too is like I've noticed over the years with this work I'm doing that in the early years, many of the people that came on were out here. They were
Hmm.
in the galactic and the elemental and the angelic, and that's all part of us. We're a composite of it all. I get it. Past lives, future lives,
Totally.
certain transmission skills or channeling skills or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember getting to a point where the words, the you, me, we, and it would be like, you know, uh, those things that are closest to you that you're not seeing.
Right? Why
So
you
then
looking
the whole
kind of
relationship changed, right? Like
like not
trees
cleaning the
with
living room, but you're trying to figure out what's going on Mars?
well,
Like,
I think all that stuff was important to come in to remind us who we were or what we're a part of.
right, to kind of expand us. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
now we're pulling it in, and because it's all based right here,
Yeah.
it's us.
Yeah.
We are that creator, and we're coming to terms with that reality and that fact, basically. I mean, and that but yeah, I just it's the little things. And I really feel like that there are many issues, many things that we discussed today and have 6 months ago, 3 months ago, that we won't even be talking about in 3, 6 months, 9 months, a
Totally.
year, seriously,
Totally.
like it won't be like those things that don't come with us, such as
Right.
forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, that's a big,
Because
yeah.
hitting a level of consciousness where you have the perspective of all those other facets of perception that we
Then you
talked about,
realize.
that
Yeah.
in other words, the abuser was abused.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
I have a very close family member
Yeah.
that violated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too explicit.
Yeah.
Another family member as close as
It
they can
wasn't
be,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with him the other day, and I had to get off the phone, and I had one of those humility things, and what it was, and it was unexpected because I
Hmm.
thought, whoa. Now I've addressed this months, a year and a half, 2 months, 2 years ago, whatever. There's been an evolution. I had conversations since then, but in that conversation, I got off and I went, "Whoa, I'm going to have to sit here for a minute just to take in how much I've actually leveled up because I just had this interaction and there was nothing but like me and you right now. It was like I'm looking at a reflection of me.
Yes.
So that there's certain things that we're leaving behind, but we're
Yeah.
not leaving what we've learned from it. It's that contrast that you were talking about,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's like everybody's going to be on an even playing field, you know.
Yeah. And or maybe more and more people will realize that they always have been because everybody has this direct access
Yeah.
right? Like if everybody has a relationship with God, or if you want whatever word you want to call that, if everybody can tune in to that which is infinitely intelligent, then that gives everybody a huge leg up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you can tap into that, and I just want to say that the emotions are the key to that, and that anyone can tap into that. And as long as you're not getting it twisted, then you're gonna nothing can keep you from anything, no matter what's going on, right? Because you're gonna know the difference between something that feels better and something that feels worse. And that guidance system, I will tell you, never lies to you, never says you didn't listen to me yesterday, so I'm not going to tell you today. It never gives you fake instructions. It just tells you the straight skinny between wherever you are and wherever it is that you want to go, even if that involves everybody else
No,
that,
that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah,
Now I can see kind of like what you were talking about. Like, so say for instance,
yeah,
say somebody, I've never been like a vengeful person. I don't use the word hate,
yeah,
but I've seen it and it's always been something like, okay, well, as time's gone on, that's for me. I need to look at that. Why am I
right,
seeing that? But what I noticed was like, I've
yeah,
seen people take actions, and I'm
mm,
not saying I'm, walking on water here. I'm just saying, as an example, revenge, getting
yes,
someone back.
it's a certain
Now,
vibrational
if
frequency.
you look at that, that person, I've seen people get off on that shit.
Well,
Okay,
there's a
now hang on.
yeah,
But
yeah,
to your point,
yeah,
I guarantee you, because I've also seen evidence of this,
mhm.
deep down, they might say on the surface, "Oh my God, I got them back, fucking A," but
They're
deep
not that.
down, something's not sitting right. It's kind of like
Exactly,
that
bro.
pit in your stomach, right? And
Exactly,
then you
bro.
see it through the echoes of their behavior.
They might have had the smile on their face, but that was a fake smile.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a good
absolutely.
system. Yeah.
And
I
it
like that.
depends on it's so relative is the thing because we talked about the two this whole time, right? Well,
Mm,
it's not two nodes, it's two directions, which means it's relative, which means there's a slider on it. You know what I
right.
mean? It means that
Right.
like you're way over here, or let's say you're way down here, like on a very slow, very uncomfortable vibration, right? Where things are not as you would like them to be at all, right? And then you move from there to slightly better, but still horrible, you're moving in the right direction.
True.
So someone might go from like despair
Yeah.
to, move up to a state of like revenge,
Yeah.
which is actually moving in the right direction for
Right.
them. And that's why they're like, heck yeah. Because they're taking a
I've
little
seen
bit,
people do it because they want to hurt somebody, you know?
yeah, but and they're taking a little bit of their power back. And so honestly,
I get it.
in their
Yeah.
inner being is going like, yeah, dude,
I
take
get it.
her
You
back.
know,
You know what I mean? But inner being says, don't stop there.
yeah.
Keep moving up,
Yeah.
keep moving up. And eventually you're just like,
See,
okay,
that's that humble pie. That's that humble pie aspect that I was talking about. You're right. You're absolutely
yeah,
right. And
yeah,
like doing that many memes, you know,
yeah, yeah.
and you do a few 5, 6,000 memes in a month. You're gonna get. And a long time ago, I stopped commenting on things,
Hmm.
But it's interesting to watch people's comments.
Hmm.
Now stay with me because again, I'm saying this out of reverence. It's in
Hmm.
regard to what you're talking about.
Thank you.
I have to be right. Oh no, it's not
Right,
this way.
right.
But
Ooh,
when I took all that in as I got back into this thing in early May
yeah,
and really started to push it like I used to, I started to see that and I thought, oh wait, man, maybe I'm not doing. Maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe it doesn't feel right. Then I realized that they're finding their voice.
yeah.
That's really what's happening.
It's all good.
They're finding their voice.
Yeah,
And if somebody comes in and they start an entanglement and
right.
then that's just them working their shit out,
Just
That's
like
all.
anybody that's
Yeah.
doing anything,
Yeah.
like everybody's on somewhere between infinity and infinity, and you're going to say, oh, you could be further along, like on an infinite path. You're not supposed to be further along on an infinite path. It's perfectly appropriate where you are. Your
Yeah.
inner being, no matter how awful you're feeling, if you're in absolute despair and your life is in shambles, your inner being just loves you unconditionally.
Oh
If
yeah.
you're on the top of the world and having the best experience that you can possibly imagine, Your inner being feels exactly the same way. Just loved you so much. But you're more on that same page with your inner being when you're rejoicing like that, because inner being rejoices at all. That's what unconditional
Yeah.
means. It means that I feel this way regardless. Like
Right.
I don't use what's going on as my criteria for how I focus and for how I feel, right? Versus conditional point of view means give me this and then I'll feel this way.
That's the
Right?
absolute thing I was talking about. Like, oh, okay,
Yes.
universe, I get it all except for these two things.
Mhm.
You can't do that.
That's
Hey, you
conditional.
reminded me of
Yeah. Yeah.
another one I listened to a couple of days ago, a
Nice.
short near death, and the guy went in, and who was it? It was Jesus. Okay, his
Yeah.
words, right? So
Yeah.
that representation was presented to him in that manner,
Hmm.
and he said, like a lot of people, like what I experienced, when you're in that environment, all you feel is this peace and love, like
Yeah.
this fifth dimension, sixth dimension, I don't know what, heaven, whatever you want to call it. It's like it's not even, it's wordless. You don't want to leave.
Let's just say it
And
feels really good.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so the dude said the first thing that happened was he sees Jesus and he says, I couldn't believe how honored he was to be in my presence.
Right? That's,
Now it's speaking to the same thing that you're speaking to. See,
yeah, yeah.
it's because we represent an an adventure, an experiment, an experience, an aspect of the soul.
Hmm.
Okay, that you could say has its own lineage, even like as a subset, like a branch,
Right.
right?
Yeah, like a branch.
And
Yeah.
and and it has allowed the soul to feel that range of power that we call the emotions that have given
Yes.
us shits and giggles and successes and failures. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes, yes.
That's the gold right there. Like the shadow is the gold, and we are the
Yeah.
boots on the ground that did it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
One last thing. I have this friend of mine. Well,
Thank you.
he's
Thank you.
transitioned now. We did 52 shows together.
Wow.
The most elevated person I've ever met in my life. And I say that it's not
Wow.
even the right word. A
Thank
lot of
you.
people know him, Franco de Nicola. And
Hmm.
so this dude, he part of his experience was working with souls because he had recollection of like other planetary lives and just a lot of different things. And so he had at one point he was assisting souls that transitioned from the earth through what we call suicide. Okay.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
And he said that the first thing that they would say to him as he was waiting to take them, or to receive them
Wow.
is, oh my God, holy shit, that was incredible. Can I go back?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
what my belief too.
so
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, and that's what I think is happening. If we're having this acceleration of our consciousness and it's expanding, and all
Mm.
of us have been like, man, get me out of here, beam me up, I'm ready to go. We've all
Right,
had our
right,
moments,
right.
right? But like, we're going to click at some point and go, oh, wait a minute, slow this thing down.
Yeah.
Like slow this roller coaster down. Let's keep this thing going, you know?
It's just like Abraham says, if you guys knew how much you wanted to be in these bodies, you wouldn't be
Mm,
trying to get out of them all the time.
exactly. Yeah.
So,
Man,
yeah,
we should do this again sometime. I kept you
totally,
really
bro.
long, dude. We're going
I
on
have,
2 hours, man.
I've absolutely loved it, bro. This has been amazing.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
trying to get some I don't know what do you call it? I'm just to me building now in this new consciousness or this new awareness or whatever you want to call it, and I don't believe that's just subjected to me at all.
Yeah.
There is a lot of feel to it and
Yeah.
intuition and above telepathy, but I can kind of feel like, you know, kind of a better version of what I experienced in the past
Oh,
because we're at
yeah.
a different place now. So what I'm saying is
Totally.
I think it's always been a place where you can have these wide open conversations,
Hmm.
okay, of a variety of subjects, all kind of in the same arena, the I am soul, the spirituality, metaphysicality, whatever,
Yeah.
but to allow people a platform to be able to become seen and to share, right? Someone like yourself, like
Thank you.
I've talked to a lot of people over these. I've been involved with a lot of many things. I mean, thousands of things.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that's, in other words, it's almost like we're under the radar. And so for every, I don't know, 40 people that are watching now on these platforms,
Mhm.
that the reverberation, the ripples of that are much greater than that.
They're more than
And
you can
and it's
even
because
imagine.
they're
Yeah.
seeing something that carries a truth frequency in someone like you. So
Yes.
thank you so much for coming in
Yes.
and honoring us with your presence and sharing sacred space. And thank
Likewise.
you for your service to humanity and for the engaging conversation. I look forward to future collaborations if you're open to it.
Super open to it. This has been great, bro. I would love to do it again.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to you. I'm going to do another flurry of scheduling over the next 2, 3 days, and I'll definitely send you a message. And in the meantime, can you put your links on YouTube and
Definitely.
Facebook? On my Facebook page right now, and then YouTube is soulogy One Studios. Oh, it's all in
Definitely.
the announcement. You'll see the three links, and then the
Definitely.
other one's X, which we just started with that, so we don't get too much action there. But I think YouTube and Facebook, people might be interested in your links and
Yeah.
anything that you might have going on. You say you have a group twice a week. I don't know if you're looking for more people, but if
Absolutely.
anything that you want to just mention as we're walking out the door right now,
Totally.
just
Yeah.
let us know and also put the links up.
Totally. Yeah, I'll totally drop the links. If you're just looking for a few basic links to find stuff to me, you can go to authorofreality.com. It's my new website. There's not a lot going on there yet, but it has all the links to all this stuff that you're looking for, authorofreality.com. And I'll drop them all down in there so you guys can find them. And you can read my book. It's a great book. You can join the mastermind. We have these awesome discussions about exactly what I'm talking about twice a
Hmm.
week. And look forward to having more of those with you. Also, you can join the Facebook group. It's got like 100,000 people in it,
Hmm.
and find out more about Abraham Hicks, which is my greatest inspiration. And yeah, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who's listening.
All right, man. Peace out, everybody. We'll see
Yes,
you soon.
peace
Take
out.
care,
Thank you so
brother. Take
much.
care. All right,
You
man.
too.